There are a ton of awesome motorcycles on the market that are aimed specifically towards beginner riders. You no longer have to go out and ego flex and buy a 1000cc bike. There's plenty of bikes that are super fun to learn on, that offer great value for money, and have enough meat on the bone to keep you excited about riding beyond your first season. But amidst this new swath of pretty sweet beginner bikes, there are still plenty of beginner bikes that are totally not worth your attention. As always, take this with a grain of salt. At the end of the day, we want more people riding. So if you find a good deal on one of these bikes and it's going to get you on two wheels, then by all means, just go for it. Any bike is better than no bike. And as a new rider without much experience, any motorcycle is going to feel really fun and really fast. But if you've got options, then you've got the time to shop around and you really want to maximize the amount of motorcycle you can get, then maybe avoid the bikes on today's list. The first bike we're going to talk about is the Honda XR150L. I really debated putting this bike on this list because I do have a bit of a soft spot for it, but let's discuss why this may not be a good choice. If you see a brand new Honda with the XR model number on a showroom floor in 2025, you should probably just turn the other way. Any XR bike still produced by Honda is going to be the most simple, rudimentary, bare-bones dual sport bike currently in production. And some of you might say, that's exactly why I want an XR model. Yam, what are you talking about? Because there's certainly some merit to a bike with that degree of fundamental simplicity, but a brand new 2025 model with early 90s tech, it's not really something you want to pay MSRP for. The XR150L started to be sold in the US a few years ago, and prior to that, it was a popular model sold in global markets. This bike is literally riddled in Mexico, Brazil, India, just all over the place. It's a workhorse machine. So Honda tried to take a page out of the old KTM handbook and sell an Indian market bike in the US for dirt cheap, just like Team Orange did with the Duke 200. The Duke 200 didn't sell very well, but we're not going to talk about that today. It is great to see more affordable motorcycles because finding a brand new beginner bike with an MSRP of less than $5,000 these days is damn near impossible. And out the door, they're going close to $8,000. That's pretty ridiculous. But you don't want to get too excited about the XR150, despite its sub $3,000 asking price. The XR150 is about as bare bones as it comes. It's a small displacement dual sport bike powered by a 149cc air-cooled single-cylinder engine that's good for a scant 10 horsepower. This bike, much like its granddad, the XR650L, is still fueled by a carburetor. A brand new carburetor isn't the end of the world, and it's not likely to give you many issues for a long time properly cared for, but it's still kind of a pain in the butt to deal with the choke for cold starts in the year of our Lord Rossi 2025, especially considering this bike is praised for its fuel efficiency, which likely means it's going to be jetted pretty damn lean from the factory. The XR150L certainly has value for some riders. If you just want a super cheap, dead reliable, economical butt to just putt around some back roads with, then you may not need much else. Or maybe you want the fun experience of having a mini bike like a Grom or a Honda Monkey, but you want something with a little bit larger stature that could be mistaken for a full-sized bike if you squint, and can do a little bit more than a Grom or a Monkey. But if you're just an outright brand new motorcyclist that wants a bike that can happily usher you into varied riding experiences from commuting to twisties to longer jaunts on the highway or maybe a weekend trip, an XR150 is just not going to cut it. $3,000 for a brand new motorcycle might sound like a bargain, and just because it has cheap MSRP doesn't mean it's immune to dealer fees. And $4,000 plus out the door for an air-cooled 150 feels a little outrageous. You should definitely try to buy this one used. Royal Enfield seems to be in the beginning stages of a metamorphosis. Not long ago, they were seen as a manufacturer that wasn't really to be taken seriously as other brands on the market. You guys might have remembered many years ago I had some choice words about Royal Enfield. But is it any good? No. No.
No.
No.
No.
No.
No! God, please, no! No!
Which I can't really say now in good conscience. But they not only have build quality that's improved significantly, they've arguably become a catalyst that provoked a lot of other companies to throw their hats into the beginner bike ring, with Triumph's very successful Speed 400 being the most notable platform that comes to mind. We're seeing lots of competition in this category. Royal Enfield's gradually made updates and innovations to their bikes. They of course have the air-cooled twin roadsters, which are really actually pretty good, and they're ushering in a new chapter themselves with a new liquid-cooled Himalayan 450. And we're all hoping they can keep that up and bring that tech over to large displacement platforms that can truly hang amongst the ranks of the Japanese and British competition. But despite this forward momentum, Royal Enfield is still out there slinging air-cooled 349cc singles like nobody's business. These bikes might make a lot more sense in other world markets, especially in their home country of India. But in 2025, a beginner rider in America shouldn't be starting out their motorcycling career on one of these machines, in our opinion. They've got the Hunter 350, the Meteor 350, and the Classic 350, with each bike varying to some degree in the cosmetic department. But fundamentally, each bike is pretty mechanically identical. The little air-cooled thumper is good for 20 horsepower and 20 foot-pounds of torque, so they're making about half the peak horsepower of something like Triumph's 400s or really countless other beginner bikes. And you might be a beginner thinking, well, I don't want too much power, I'm just a baby, I need to learn riding fundamentals first. And look, it's good to have reservations about power as a new rider, but 20 horsepower on a 420-pound bike with a 5-speed gearbox is going to offer nothing but pain. That's just kind of criminally slow. Just as I said with the XR150L, cheaper bikes are awesome, but a Royal Enfield 350 is going to be so under-equipped in the modern day, you're going to be robbing yourself of a ton of experiences as a new rider. So if you're in the market for a beginner-friendly retro bike at an affordable price, just spend an extra $1,000 and get a Triumph instead of a Royal Enfield 350, or you could even spec up to their Gorilla 450. 7 years ago, before he was tricking online motorcycle content enthusiasts into watching 10-minute advertisements with the panache of Steven Spielberg, Ryan F9 made a video that sung the praises of a humble Versys 300. And now, all those years later, in the face of countless new small displacement adventure touring machines, Versys 300 owners are still citing that video as the Lord and Testament of their God. Kawasaki themselves have seemingly left this bike in the dust, refusing to cross-platform the updated Ninja 500 engine into the Versys and instead making us wait for the upcoming KLE 500. It's all a bit ironic because the extra displacement for the sake of torque would improve the riding experience on an adventure touring bike as much, if not more, than a fully fared sport bike. But nope. The Versys never got the displacement increases that the Ninja and Z bikes did. If you can find a used Versys 300 for a couple grand on Facebook Marketplace, it will willingly serve as your first motorcycle. But if you're looking for a bike that can offer a more fun, versatile, or characterful ride, there are a lot of other bikes that fit the bill. The Baby Adventure segment, a name that we've coined a surprisingly amount of riders have started taking offense to, is bigger and better than ever. KTM has an updated 390 Adventure, BMW is releasing a 450 GS, and as I mentioned, Kawasaki is about to launch the KLE 500 as well. I mean, even bikes like the Honda CB500X or CRF 300L Rally are going to have a lot more to offer to riders. For a cheap, bulletproof beginner bike, a used Versys 300 isn't going to be the worst thing in the world, but for a new model in 2025, relative to all the new competitive small displacement adventure bikes, it really leaves the Versys in the dust.
All right, if you told me that I would have 2 yellow giveaway bikes for 2024, I don't think I had that on my bingo card, honestly. But this is our Cosmic Yellow Street Triple 765 RS. This is our new giveaway bike on YamiNoob.co. Become a member for your best chance to win. You can stack up your entries, assign them to this giveaway bike, and then we do more giveaway bikes. You can do that as well. You get access to the Discord server, exclusive content, discounts on merch, and so much more. Head over to the website and do not miss your chance to win this machine.
When a rider buys a BMW, it's always going to raise some questions, isn't it? But a new rider buying a BMW G310 GS raises even more red flags. The 310 GS is actually kind of worse than the Versys 300 if you can believe it. It offers an approachable amount of power and it's pretty cheap from a price point perspective, especially for the BMW badging, but besides the badge, it's kind of a far stretch for a BMW. The bike is made in India, but it feels more like it came from Temu. KTM's Indian-made bikes are often a lot more reliable than their Austrian-made models these days, but the 310 GS from BMW has a pretty strong reputation for poor build quality and reliability issues. Some have had issues with the stator, charging faults, water pump issues, and even engine failures that had to be replaced under warranty. BMW 1250 GS owners talk about how great their bikes are off-road, and we all nod and say, sure, whatever you say. But the baby 310 GS is certainly not an off-road bike. It has cast wheels, street tires, and a very spongy suspension. It's also not that great as a street bike either, with strange gearing and a single-cylinder engine that vibrates to high heaven over 65 miles an hour. If you can spend $6,000 on a BMW 310 GS, there are a bunch of other bikes that are worth your consideration. It seems BMW is bringing the squeeze from other more capable bikes in the class, and hopefully the new 450 GS brings some life back into their entry-level platform, because at this point, we really can't recommend anybody buy it new. When CFMOTO first brought their bikes into the US, most riders weren't totally impressed. The models were limited to the 300 platform and the 700 platform, if memory serves me correctly. And now they've diversified their offerings to include the naked bikes with the Duke engines, the Ibex adventure bikes, and some pretty neat bikes like the 450 SS and the incoming 675cc triple, and even a new 4-cylinder bikes. There's a lot that I'm genuinely curious to try at this point. As the new bikes have debuted and become pretty competitive in the market, the old CLX 700 models seem to have gone by the wayside for 2025, which was rightfully so, as they were a little wonky, had a lame Ninja 650 clone engine, and just didn't have much of an appeal, frankly. But surprisingly, the 300 models, including the 300SS and the 300NK, are still offered in CFMOTO's lineup. They not only are substantially overshadowed by CFMOTO's own 450SS, they don't offer a lot when compared to entry-level sport bikes sold by other manufacturers either. They use a diminutive 292cc single-cylinder engine that makes 30 horsepower and 20 foot-pounds of torque. Of course, power is not everything, but really, the 300SS and 300NK don't have a whole lot else to offer other than a TFT dash and a bargain bin price point. But when it comes down to it, there's probably some better ways to spend $4,500. Either get a used Ninja 300 or spend a bit more and get a bike that will encourage you to hold on for a little bit longer. If you buy a used Japanese sport bike, you're going to be able to sell it for just a little bit less than what you bought it for a season later. But no one's gonna want to give you anywhere near $4,000 for a used CFMOTO 300. I mean, you can find brand new previous year models in stock at dealerships for $3,000 or less, so who is ever gonna want to pay anywhere near close to that for a used one? These bikes just do not have any serious demand and do not hold their value in any way, so that's going to be a big pass from us. Honda's entry-level sport bike, the CBR 300R, has really been left in the dust. It is like a 2 generations old motorcycle that at this point really misses the mark when there are so many other bikes that are so much more fun and characterful. The CBR 300R uses a 286cc single-cylinder engine found from the CRF 300 and Rebel 300 bikes. The size and configuration are both working against it in this configuration. It's small, so it's going to be down on torque. It's a single cylinder, so it doesn't rev as high. The KTM RC390 has a single, but its 399cc of displacement gives it a good amount of grunt. The R3 has a 321cc twin, which is long in the tooth in its own right, but it can at least be revved out to nearly 13,000 RPM, unlike the CBR's 10,500. You know, it's a Honda. It can't be that bad, right? But it's just that it's so outpaced by the competition. You've got Ninja 500s, RC390s, 450SSs, Aprilia RS 457s that are more powerful, more modern, and are outfitted with better components. But the CBR 300R does get 70 miles per gallon if that's important to you. Plus, one CBR 300R owner lovingly referred to it online as the bike that is as fast as a V6 Camaro, which is some pretty high praise. If you've watched a beginner motorcycle video from Miami Noob before, you're probably anxiously waiting for me to ridicule the GSX-250. And if you're new to riding and are shopping for a bike for the first time, you need to hear this more than anyone. And here it is. The Suzuki GSX-250 was and still is the worst beginner sport bike you can buy. The CBR 300R looks like a spaceship compared to this machine. The CBR 300R might be 2 generations behind modern beginner bikes, but the GSX-250 might as well be 2 millennia behind. Suzuki says the Pearl Nebular paint scheme brings big bike quality to the 250 class. Bro, 250 class hasn't been a thing in like 12 or 15 years. What are we talking about? This bike makes 24 horsepower and weighs 400 pounds. 400 pounds. It's got a cradle frame, for God's sake. If you've been around the channel for a while, you might remember how I famously bought a GSX-250 and I put it through the most wretched conditions and ultimately shot it with a flamethrower. If this isn't your first time hearing me talk about it, I think you got the gist. The GSX-250 should be illegal, and it's kind of crazy that Suzuki's never updated this thing. You made it all the way to the end. Great job. Good work. You're a truly devoted squid. Which one of these bikes am I totally wrong about? I feel like Royal Enfield 350 owners will have already let me know their thoughts in the comment section, but I appreciate you watching. I thank you for watching, and I will catch you all later. Fact: Shakespeare invented the word eyeball. Before that, nobody knew what an eyeball was. Goodbye.
All right, everybody, time is up. This video is unfortunately over. But head over to yammynoob.co while you're waiting for the next amazing Yammy Noob video to queue up. Become a member, and you'll get access to win this Triumph Street Triple 765 RS. You're not going to want to miss it.